Hello everyone, welcome back. My name is Jillian. Today I'm just going to go over some of the things that I have been reading lately and let you know my thoughts. The first book that I finished reading is The Boys in the Boat by Daniel James Brown. I was absolutely loving this book the last time that I mentioned it to you when I had just started it. I'd found some wonderful quotes that grabbed me. The rest of the book was just the same. This is the nonfiction account of the crew team that won gold in the 1936 Olympics in Berlin. The author does a great job of storytelling, really making you feel for these boys. One in particular, it's not just a bunch of regurgitated facts, it's this really nicely woven story. Something that I did not expect. Hitler was really using the 1936 Olympics to create and sow his seeds of propaganda. Also, it mentions a lot of historical figures I have really enjoyed in my reading life. It mentions Louis Zamperini, an Olympic runner in 1936. He's featured in the nonfiction account by Laura Hillenbrand called Unbroken, and that was a World War II story of survival. If you have not read Unbroken, I highly recommend it. I know it's also a movie. I have not watched that, but the book is outstanding. Another historical figure that features in the book is Seabiscuit. Seabiscuit was a racehorse of this era that raised the collective spirits of the American people. So he's mentioned a couple times, and Laura Hillenbrand also wrote a book, I believe it's called Seabiscuit, about Seabiscuit. I also highly recommend that book. So it was nice to see some of my favorite historical figures mentioned. Something that Daniel James Brown did very well with The Boys in the Boat is making it exciting. I know how the book ends. Clearly, it's written on the front, it's written on the back. It's history. We know what happens. They win the gold medal. And yet I was sitting on the edge of my seat during their qualifying runs and also the final race and thinking, how are they going to do this? They can't possibly do this. How is this going to end? It was nail-biting, honestly questioning if it would really turn out the way that I knew it would. I think that this is my favorite book of the year so far. I'm not sure what else Daniel James Brown has written, but I'm very excited to take a look, see what he's written, and maybe pick something else up by him. Next, I want to talk about the Wingfeather Saga by Andrew Peterson. This is a middle grade fantasy series. I've now read 3 out of the 4 books. Just started the 4th book, so I'll let you know what I think about that. We follow a family, the Igbys. There are 3 children, 2 boys and a girl, and they live with their mother and also their grandfather. And they live in this very fantastical world that is ruled over by these lizard-like creatures. There is a black carriage that occasionally comes and takes children away. This series was overall a mixed bag for us. Did not really enjoy the first book. It was mostly just world building and setting the stage for the books to come. Once we finished reading the first book, I was ready to stop the series, and one of my boys really wanted us to continue, so we decided to do so, and I am very glad we did. The second book was so much better. It introduced a lot of characters that I really enjoyed, one in particular that I think bibliophiles will like. I also really liked the humor in it. Let me just read you a little bit of the first book, right how it starts out. The whole land of Skree was green and flat, except for the stony mountains in the north, which weren't flat at all, nor were they green. They were rather white from all the snow, though if the snow melted, something green might eventually grow there. So I just thought it was kind of a fun way of writing, and I very much enjoyed his language. It's not contemporary at all. It more feels like you've stepped into a fairy tale, which is exactly how I like my stories to be. I think my main gripe with it is that I just did not want an entire book of world building. One other thing that I did not like about the early books was the footnotes. They went from endearing to too plentiful. They were taking me out of the story. In the second book, there were fewer footnotes, but one of the footnotes referred me to a footnote in the first book. This series has so far reminded me of a number of other books that I have read. It has elements of Roald Dahl books, specifically Matilda in a school setting. It has elements of Morgan Crow with this black carriage that's coming and taking children away. And also it really reminded me in, I believe it was the second book, of a series of unfortunate events, because the children find themselves in a factory. They are in less than ideal circumstances. If you like any of those books, then this might be something that you are interested in as well. The third book wasn't quite as good as the second one, but overall we still really enjoyed it and wanted to push out to the fourth one. So we have just started that one, and so far so good. I'm looking forward to seeing how it ends, and I'll give you a broad update on the whole series and what we thought of that when I finish that. I am currently reading Love and Other Consolation Prizes by Jamie Ford. I picked it up because I found it on a list of books that are recommended by Kristen Hanna, who I really enjoy as an author, so I figured I would give that a try. The author was inspired by real events. It's a dual timeline book. Most of the book takes place in 1909 during Seattle's World Fair, where a little boy is raffled off as a prize. I'm about halfway through. I'm still rather undecided on how I feel about the book, so I will update you all on that later. Though I am doing my best to read through my current books on my shelves and the stuff that I've picked up at my little free libraries, I went to the library yesterday specifically because MJ at Reading This Life is having a read-along for Andy Weir's Hail Mary project. I've been excited to read that. I did not find that. I do have it on hold at the library, so hopefully it will come in before it's time to start reading that. But though I didn't find Project Hail Mary, I did find The Martian by Andy Weir, and I have been really excited to read that. So I'll be reading that in the near future. And I also found a book that I had put on my list of books that I thought would be 5-star books for me, and that is 11/22/63 by Stephen King. Cannot wait to read that. So that is all. That's my update for this week. If you would like to see other books that I put on my potential 5-star book list for this year, then please check out this video, and I will see you all next week. I hope you have a wonderful weekend.